I'm going live in two spots. The title of this live that I'm going to do is how to think about your money and the difference between people that are building wealth and people that are just paycheck to paycheck comes down to um, how you view your money. And so the thing that I want to talk to everybody about in this live is if you try to earn WT W2 paycheck money and you're piling the money up, every time you need to use the money, you have to take the money out of the pile and the pile gets smaller. If your goal is to continue to make money and to continue to grow wealth, you need to visualize your money differently. It's not a pile. You're not looking to pile your money. What you're looking for is you're looking to create a river of money. And if you do that, you take your money that you're making now and you put it into income producing assets that make you money while you're sleeping, either capital assets or business or rental homes or whatever it is. But you put that money and then it creates a stream of income. And then as that river is flowing through, metaphorically, the money river is flowing through, then you dip your ladle in and use that money whenever you want to. But it keeps flowing by. It never eats away at the pile. And that's really important for us in these recessionary times, because if you guys remember, the 5 years ago, a pizza was $15. Today, a pizza is $13. So if you have a pile of money that you're taking money out of, that pile is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and we're not getting more new pizza. So there are a couple of pitfalls when you're talking about income streams and investing that I like to address. And, one of them is a video I just did on multi-level marketing, which I am just absolutely against multi-level marketing, because the pitch is, oh, you're going to have a stream of income and other people are going to be earning. Well, it's BS. There's absolutely no way that people work for you and you don't have to pay them anything. And, the Ponzi schemes of just piling all this money up and people are just, after you get 100 people signed up, you're going to get all this money. It doesn't work. And so I want you to be careful. If it seems too good to be true, it is. But if you start a business and you use your marketing talents and somebody else's labor and somebody else's experience, then you've got a business where you can work in the evening, create some marketing apparatus, and do your part, whatever it is, your sales, or maybe you're the guy that's mowing or the lady that's cleaning or whatever you're doing. But those are ways that you can create a stream of income because you have a business that's growing in size, and that's called capital, return on capital. As the business grows, you can either sell the business or keep it running and be an absentee owner. Like say you got a car wash and that's a real estate play with a business. The other thing that I really like, when you get a little bit further along, is real estate. I really love income real estate as it pertains to the small American household and the ability to build and grow wealth, generational wealth. The only problem is, people try to borrow money to buy real estate, and it doesn't work. And it doesn't work because let's say that you buy a house for $100,000. And if you don't know where those are, call me and I'll show you where those are. But you buy a house for $100,000. And if we utilize the rule of 1% against the gross expenses as our goal for rental, you've got a winner if you pay $100,000 for a business or a property all in, and you start renting it for $1,000 a month. That's a winner, because at that rate you're paying your expenses, and you're taking in $1,000 in rents with no mortgage. You are returning about half after you pay for your expenses and taxes and pass through and all that kind of stuff. 50 to 60% is going in your pocket. The problem is people are trying to buy insurance, taxes, and let's say that we take out a loan and we're paying $800 in our mortgage every month, and we're cash flowing without anything happening. We're cash flowing $200 every month. The bank's getting $800, you're getting $200, and as soon as a water heater goes on that thing, $1,600, you've lost the profits for the year. And that's a big problem. The banker is making all the money for the first 5 or 10 years, and then maybe the equity growth goes up and you can raise rents. But it's very, very hard to safely make money. Now, let's say that we don't involve the banker as our non-working partner, and the bank is a shitty partner to have. They don't do any of the work. They don't manage the tenants. They don't help us do anything. They just want their money. They put some money in and they want their money for 30 years. And it's horrible. But let's say that we have 4 like-minded individuals who are working, and they all save up $25,000 in cash. Now you're talking about a capital company or an LLC that gets formed that is very strong, because now that they're cash buyers, you can go in and demand a lower price. You can demand a lot of things that FHA buyers can't demand, because they have to get a loan, they have to get approved. We don't have to do that. So we tell them, look, we're going to pay $80,000 for this building, and we're all cash, and it's been sitting on the market for 100 days. So when that person realizes they'd rather have their money now than they would like to have their house sell in 6 months or 9 months, one of our teams, one of our capital companies goes in, and we have $100,000 set aside for our 4-way investment company. Now we've got $80,000 to make the purchase on the house, and we have $20,000 for fix up and repair should we need it. And let's say we need $10,000 to get the house ready to rent, get it all set up. Now we got a $10,000 prudent reserve in the bank account. We got a wonderful tenant and a nicely fixed up house, $100,000. They're paying $1,000 a month. Then the water heater goes, and it's $1,600 in the example before, where we lost all of our profit with the bank. Now, our investors just aren't getting their $250 a month for a month and a half, and then we're back in business. So it's not as simple as that, because generally in these capital companies, we want to have a prudent reserve built up before we start distributing capital money. And I would say probably a year's worth of expenses is a good number. So you're going to have enough to just fix the water heater, and one of the people in the LLC is going to act as manager and collect those rents and pay that bill. So likely the cash distributions on the properties are going to remain the same. So at the end of the year, if you get $2,000 for your quarter or whatever it is, you're going to be getting money and your money's going to be growing in value most of the time, where the house is growing in worth. Now, right now it's a little bit of a dip, which makes it a good time to buy. But if you buy a house for $100,000 and all the houses drop in value, but the people are still renting it because they can't afford to buy a house because of the interest rates, it doesn't affect you. Our $100,000 house that we paid $80,000 for, they're telling us is worth $40,000 now because there's no buyers. Okay. But if we're renting our $40,000 house, the only thing that happens is the taxes go down, and we're still renting it for $1,000. So cash on cash, we're fine. You know, we're absolutely fine having that act lower because of the market conditions. But somebody needs a place to live, and our families get together and make those investments. And we're not trusting anyone else to manage the companies. We're not trusting anybody else to manage the property. And this is the main thing. I have had property managers that don't care. They're spending all of your money in a way that is crazy that you wouldn't do. I mean, you four people go in and buy this house, and you know somebody says, "Oh, it needs a water heater," for $1,600, and a property manager says, "Okay, $1,600 is the bill. I'm going to add my 10% management fee, so I get $160 extra for that. Go ahead and put it in." Then the guy that puts it in says, "Oh yeah, this was just a leaky anode tube or whatever. I'm going to R&R this water heater, and I'm going to sell it as used to one of my customers because, you know, these idiots just replaced it. Nobody even checked." But as an owner operator, you might go out and say, "Hey, look, this is just a leak. Don't try to tell me that I need a new water heater." And that's because an owner that has a cash paid off property that is a major investment in our lives is going to learn how to maximize the repairs and upgrades and dollars more than some manager who's just taking 10% a month and is showing the property, taking half the month's rent. I mean, being a property manager, I've thought about starting a property management company because I know so much, because it's almost owner money. You know, I take 10% and you pay for all the repairs. I talk to the collect the rents and talk to the tenants. And every time the thing's empty, I send some cleaners in. I run an ad, I vet some tenants, and then I get half a month's rent. So what's left over for the owners is just whatever's left over that I don't take. 10% is a pretty good rip every month on something that I don't have to put any money into. You know, so you have to think for yourself, if it's so good for the property manager financially, is it a good deal for me as an owner? And the answer to that question is no. I want you guys to all learn how to manage all the aspects of your real estate, just like it was a business, because it is. It's an asset that's growing that houses a business, which is actually the function of renting out the asset and collecting the payment. So it's a small business that's earning a margin of income as we go along, but the business asset is growing in price. So we hold the place for 5 years. And I've been buying real estate in Oklahoma for the last 3 years. And everything that I have bought in the last 3 years has almost doubled. It's up by 60%. And when I teach my classes, I show my students my houses and what they are, what I paid for them, how it's working. But of course, I bought a bunch of houses before that, and I have 2 of them left over in Denver that I still own, and they've quadrupled in value. And they're paying a very handsome monthly payment. And that's really the end game that we want, for the real estate that paid off assets that are growing in value, and we start off renting them for $1,000 a month. And then when they quadruple, now we're renting out a house that's $400,000. And we'd like to be renting it for $4,000 a month, but in the bigger markets, you can't do that. In some of the more rural markets, you can get that 1%, but it doesn't grow as fast. But it's okay because you're getting that 1% rent on that value. But it still ain't bad if you bought something for $100,000 10 years ago and you're renting it out for $2,500 a month, and your tenants feel like you're doing them a favor. You've got a nice little upgraded property, and it's paid off. And even if the worst of the worst thing that could happen, which is rental rates dive, and the inflation happens, and now they don't want to let you rent your house for $1,000 a month because you shouldn't do that. If we're all cash, then we rent it for $500 a month, and all the partners are getting $125 a month until we weather the storm. But nobody's losing a house. If you have financing on a house that's an investment property, it's like a twister in Kansas. Somebody's about ready to lose a house, and there's nothing you can do about it because the leverage is way too much. But if you're all cash, it is easy to manage the thing and just keep dropping the price so you can get a qualified renter. And you're going to be more picky because you're doing it. And I can't stress enough how partners being together, being cash investors, is the only way to go. Now, Mark, we need to borrow some money from a friend or a family or against our house. I'm not going to lie to anybody and say that I didn't build my wealth by borrowing against my main home, paying it down aggressively, and then cashing out that money, buying an business asset for cash. And then the next time that I needed money, I utilized my family home again to build that capital. We're in odder times right now because, the capital against our primary homes is not such a good deal anymore. But saving fractionally to buy a house with a group of people is easier because you're working hard, you're being frugal, you're doing the Dave Ramsey beans and rice, and you're saving up $20,000. Which before we used to borrow against our house and then, do it that way. We were just cashing that resource out. Now we're not doing that. But once you start one of these capital companies with 4 of your friends, now the rents are flowing into the capital company. And if we don't make regular distributions, now all of a sudden we find $50,000 sitting in that capital company. And the 4 owners find another building or another house that's $100,000. But we have $50,000 sitting in the capital company. So the capital company buys half of the house, and then we all chip in $12,500. Now we got a second house, and now we have $2,000 in rents flowing in to the capital company, and everybody owns a fourth. And you need to find partners. If you're going to do this, you need to find partners that are like-minded, that really want to grow together. You can't have somebody that is in the capital partnership that wants to get a loan on the property all the time. That's not allowed. That's in the partnership agreement. And, you have to figure out how you're going to get divorced when you figure out when you get married. And that's something that we'll never do. We'll never encumber the property and lose it. We might do some things with the corporation. We may allow people to put things in trusts if it's a family operation. But we will not let the bankers attach to our asset. And, it has to be done that way because that's how the wealth is built. And a lot of times everyone that I coach has this thing where if they're not a mega influencer and they're not getting 100 likes on their video, if everybody's not tuning in, then they're a failure. I mean, if they don't have $1 million apartment building or an office complex or a high rise, they're not successful. Well, let me tell you something. I like things that are small, and I love to have things that are manageable. And if we can start off with a little thing and then just keep growing it and learning and growing it and learning, you're doing great. Your advertising is $5 a week, maybe, for your small lawn cutting business. One of the first properties that you want to buy is a little house that's going to be a rental, but then you have a commercial, like, pole building or shed on the back of it, and you allow the business to run their lawn mowing business out of there, and a tenant up front to pay for the building that the business owns. Maybe it's even a separate LLC from the house, and the primary people that are involved in the capital company own both the LLC for the home, and you devise the property, and then the building LLC is a different LLC, maybe with the same partners, and they rent it to the business. And maybe the business is owned by the same partners, but that's money coming from the action of our hands and mowing the lawn. But the rent on the building where the lawnmowers live is being paid by the owners that are us, in the form of rent. And so we're paying ourselves rent on a building that we don't even have to pay for because it's all cash, and it's being subsidized by the building up front. And that mortgage is being paid by a renter. Mortgage meaning our investment, not a loan. Because in this scenario, we are the banker, and we do things that banks do ourselves. Meaning we go out, take our money, and we invest it in things that are making money. And the bank makes 30 or 40% on their loans that they make and pay us 5% or 4%, 2% if we're, 0.0001% if we're really stupid. And then they go make money. So we cut them out, and our fourth business in this scenario is we're the bank. We're making money the way the bank does by investing the money that we deposit with ourselves in our investing in our own LLC. The second business is lawn mowing, and we rent the little building to the third asset that was added onto that property, the building. And then we rent the house out, maybe to the family that does the lawn mowing, because maybe that's a pretty cool way for them to be close to their lawn mowing implements. But we've turned this LLC into a package of 4 different businesses containing 2 real estate assets and 1 capital business asset. And it's all growing and being nurtured and managed by the owners who care about it. So please think about your life and your wealth building and your money as a river that flows by. Allow it to get a little wider so you can put more than just a Dixie cup in, and then your little stream peters out. Let's get a nice river going that's flowing by. And the cool thing about that is you own the pond at the end of the river. So any money that you don't dip out and reinvest or spend on a car or college or whatever you're doing is collecting in the pond that is meant to do further investments. And I'm a big proponent of learning as you're going and having friends that are there to help you and support you, and you all get rich together. And there always needs to be like an old guy like me who's been there and done it. I'm the Daniel Boone of the operation, but I can't carry a heavy backpack because I'm old and I don't care anymore about doing a bunch of physical labor. So I need some young people that are eager to learn and need some guidance so they don't get burned by somebody saying, "Oh yeah, get a loan or buy a, insurance policy and be your own banker or whatever." Bullshit. Somebody like me needs to say, "Hey, look, save your money. Save it up. Stop ordering DoorDash. Stop that. It is crazy. And if you have a car that's worth more than $10,000 and you have debt of any kind except for your mortgage on your house, sell that car. You need to be driving around a Jetta like my granddaughter. My granddaughter drives a banged out, burnout old Jetta, and I love her for that. She's in college, and that's the exact car she should be driving because she's going to be a very rich young lady when she grows up because she's going to invest her money before she spends her money. And if you give me every NFL football player that's graduating from the University of Oklahoma, the best university in the nation, and you give me every football player and let me talk to them before they get their money and we get them on track with education and say, look, when you get your $1 million signing bonus and you get your money from your NFL contract, you can spend all it if you want to. I just want to put it into a financial sponge first. Let's buy 10 houses and you got $1,000 coming from each one of them after we establish that. If you wait a year and drive your Jetta or your Rabbit or whatever it is, now you've got $10,000 a month coming in. You can spend it however you want to because the asset's growing. Your money is safely deposited there and you don't have an opportunity to blow it. So you get rich slower. And that's the thing that happens with a lot of these football players and a lot of these lottery winners and a lot of these people that make big money. I'm going to go buy a Rolex. Well, yeah, go ahead. Oh, I'm going to buy 10 Rolexes. Okay, great. I'm going to buy a $2 million house. Well, $2 million house costs $200,000 a year to maintain. And the fancy cars cost money, So if you just buy all those assets like boats and mountain homes and big houses, now it's sucking $500,000 a year off of you. You've got your money stuck in a pile and it's shrinking. And then eventually you have to sell the house, sell the boat, do all that other stuff. But if your money is stuck in assets, that's a river. And just imagine these football players, if they would just build up that equity and then lock it in, pretty soon by the time they stop playing, 5 years later, they have $30 million in assets. And real quick math, that's $300,000 a month coming in. And they can spend that however they want to. And hopefully, living life, they figure out, I don't need to spend $300,000 a month because I don't care that much about things that cost $300,000 a month. I'll fly first class instead of flying private. And it's all units. But if we can eliminate debt and put our money into income producing assets that create a river of money, you're going to be successful in life, whatever level you want to be at. And believe me, that's it. There's way more richer guys than me, and there's way more richer guys than them. And the people that are happiest are the ones that are happiest where they are. Because I guarantee you, if you're not happy where you're at financially, and you look at the next guy that has 3 garage doors and you only have 2, you're not going to be happy when you get 3 because you wish you had 5, and on and on and on. And my time is ending. And so I'm going to end this live at about 30 minutes. But please visualize your money differently. If it's in a big pile, the pile gets smaller. You're not going to get rich. If it's in a hole, where you put your money in there, the second you get it and it disappears right away because you've already spent it, that's another problem altogether. You know, we need to be debt free, then we can build the river of money. And entrepreneurism and capital investments and businesses on your side gig businesses and growing capital is the way for you to build generational wealth for your family and for yourself. And it ain't that hard. And I'm not that smart. And I grew up really poor. And if I can put the little Lego pieces together and build some wealth in my lifetime, I know you can, and I will coach you. I give away half of my time to try and help people become successful in life. And I have never, ever been sorry to take the time like I am now, providing education to anyone that wants it. And I don't get paid for any of this teaching. It's my deal with God that I look for somebody that I can help every single day. And God takes care of me for me taking care of his people. And that could be anybody. So if you need help, tune into the Mark Hope Show. We're all over the internet as far as where to find us. Ask questions. I'm more than happy to answer or have my team answer. But if I'm telling you to not touch the hot stove and you do, then I'm going to be like that 1970s mom and say, "Oh, but you don't touch that again." You know, oh, you got a car loan on a brand new car when you're making $1,600 a month and the payment was $1,200 a month. I bet you don't touch that again. You know, you're living in an apartment when you should be saving up for a house, but you're living in a $4,000 apartment because I have to live in Denver. I work online, but I have to live in LA because blah, blah, blah. You can't afford LA. You know, listen to me when I tell you, you cannot afford what you want. You can afford what you can afford. And so if you have to live somewhere cheap while you're building up to be able to afford to live wherever you want to, that's a plan that works. So I'm going to sign off. I love you guys. And there's not a damn thing you can do about that.